I am here today to talk to you about elevator pitches and introductions. How good is yours? Do you feel that when you stand up in front of people to introduce yourself, that you are the best representation of who you are and how you feel and how people feel when they work with you and what you do? I find a lot of people really don't feel comfortable introducing themselves. They're often very nervous, so their actual physical introduction, like the delivery of the introduction, can be a little bit maybe flat or a little bit small, or maybe, when you get really nervous, your voice gets a little bit squeaky. So there's the delivery side of that, on that people often don't feel like they're being their best. They're not on their best voice. They're not being their best in as far as physical presence goes when they introduce themselves, because there's so much pressure. Like, oh, 30 seconds, wow me. It's not an easy thing to do. And the other thing that I find people really struggle with is when you are put on the spot like that, it's hard to really come up with the best thing to say. There's so many doubts that flood our minds. I've only got 30 seconds. Do I say absolutely everything that I do? How on earth can I say everything that I do in 30 seconds? That's not possible, no matter how quickly I speak. Or do I just focus on this one thing? And if I only focus on one thing, am I focusing on the right thing? And there's so many questions that go through our minds. And you can script it, absolutely. But then the problem with scripting something and memorizing it is that your introduction is going to change depending on who you're talking to. And how many scripts do you want to write and memorize? And so there are all these different challenges when it comes to introducing ourselves at networking events or at an interview, or, just when someone turns to you at a party and says, "So what do you do?" And you don't want to come across as someone who is insecure or as someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. You want to come across as someone who's confident, and potentially maybe you want to come across as someone that that person wants to hire or to work with or to engage in some way. And so you really want to put your best foot forward. And so what I've done is, to help me deal with this, because it is an issue for everyone, I think, to help me deal with it, is I've put together 4 very simple steps on how to craft the elevator pitch or the introduction, whatever you want to call it. 4 steps for a formula for me to follow, so that I have a template, so that I can think on the spot. I can still be spontaneous. I can still come up with something inspired by something that someone just said, or by someone I've just met and I really want to speak to them because I know that they'd be perfect for me. I can adapt what I want to say very easily because I have this formula that I follow. I improvise within the formula, but the formula itself is quite rigid. And so that really helps me. I know I'm not going to ramble. I know I'm going to stay on point, but I'm also not going to forget what to say. I'm not going to have that moment of, and everything goes blank, because I think a lot of people, I don't know, can you relate? Have you ever been asked what you do and you just went, I certainly have. I've been there. And this is what I developed to stop me having those moments, because they're horrible. They're painful. And then you go home and you beat yourself up about it. You're like, oh, I should have said this. I should have said that. And I got tired of all the self-recrimination and judgment that I had. So I developed this 4-step formula. And the other thing is the language of confidence, the body language of confidence, and the vocal tone of confidence. How to set yourself up so that when you stand up in front of that group, or someone presses unmute, or asks you to turn on your camera and introduce yourself in that video conference call, that your body language and your vocal tone, your vocal quality is such that you are starting strong right out the gate, and it's not squeaky, you're not sounding insecure or unconfident, but you sound like you know who you are and you know what you're talking about, and then you can be the best version of yourself, which sometimes includes being a little bit weird or quirky, and that's wonderful. We want that. We want personality. You don't want to be thinking too much when you're speaking. You want to have done the work already so that you can just focus on being your best self. And understanding the context, understanding who you're talking to, what you have to offer, what they're interested in, those are all things that I think are exceptionally important. And so we go through that as well. And that's part of the creating this effective elevator pitch. March 24th, we're going to spend 2 hours on how to create your elevator pitch, what you need to know, what research you need to do, what personal prep you need to do, what the context is, what you need to know about yourself and who you're talking to. We're going to spend 2 hours on that on March 24th, and then on March 25th, 2 hours on the delivery, how to really show up as your best self in person or on camera, but in your body and in your voice, how to really impress people and be strong and confident in who you are. The reason it's two-part workshop is because I want you to have time to process things, and I didn't want it to get too long. It is a very small group, so I'm capping it out at 12. I'm not having more than 12 people in the group, and that is because it is going to be highly interactive. It's not enough just to kind of sit and write it and think about it. You need to actually practice it. You need to get the feedback. And sometimes you don't always know the answer. And so I will be there to interview you, to ask you questions, and to help jog your memory and help you get some perspective on what is the most powerful thing to say. You know, if you have these 3 choices, what should you focus on? That's what I'm there for, to help you with that. Please do contact me if you have any questions at all. If you are excited to sign up at the link below, and I will see you on March 24th and March 25th, where together we can create highly confident, charismatic, effective introductions so that you can just knock their socks off. I will see you there.